the mid-stage nascent soul cultivator, Han Li, and a group of other nascent soul cultivators, entered Kunwu Palace one after another, vying to find treasures. Meanwhile, on the 7th underground level of Kunwu Mountain's demon-suppressing pagoda, that late-stage nascent soul cultivator from the Yi family, the big-headed strange man, knew that his life was about to end. Therefore, he chose to betray his family, and reached an agreement with the ancient demon. He allowed the Saint Ancestor to use a secret technique to infuse him with demonic Cha, advancing to the deity transformation stage in one go. At this moment, the two forms were completely different. Both heads had their eyes tightly shut, as if they were both in a deep slumber. It was unclear if this was the effect of remaining still. "This is the saint race incarnation you spoke of?" the big-headed strange man asked with a frown. "That's right. This is the incarnation of the Yuan Sha Saint Ancestor from our saint realm. Among all the saint ancestors in the saint realm, the Yuan Sha clan can be ranked in the top 5. Of course, this isn't the true form of the Yuan Sha Saint Ancestor right now. It's just a wisp of his divided soul, possessing a demon Volf on the verge of the next realm. But even so, it's not something an ordinary deity transformation cultivator can compare to. As long as there's no interference from a being of the same level, it's an absolutely invincible existence in the human realm. Back then, the Yuan Sha Saint Ancestor was also one of our saint race's 3 commanders who descended upon the human realm," the ancient demon said proudly. "The Yuan Sha Saint Ancestor," the strange man muttered to himself. "Brother Yi, stand guard for me for a moment. I must first use a secret technique to communicate with the Saint Ancestor's soul." The ancient demon suddenly turned and said, "Fine, go ahead and perform your technique." The big-headed strange man seemed to have completely cast aside his worries, agreeing without a second thought. The ancient demon seemed to trust the strange man completely. Seeing him agree, he immediately began to form hand seals. A surge of pitch-black demonic Cha erupted from his body, completely submerging his figure within it. Immediately after, a low roar could be heard from inside. A demonic silhouette with 2 hands and 4 arms. It appeared amidst a violent crackle of bones. This demonic shadow was several dozen feet tall. Its giant demonic body emanated a shocking, immense malevolent aura. Even the big-headed man's expression changed slightly as he backed away. A choked sound emerged. Immediately after, its 2 drum-like mouths simultaneously emitted a deep, low muttering of an incantation. Its 4 limbs were covered in shiny, oily scales. Its demonic arms began to form magical seals. In the black mist, it seemed to have become a demon god. Although the big-headed man was cautiously watching his surroundings, his eyes were fixed on the 2-handed Volf in the air, watching to see if there were any changes. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the drum-like mouth suddenly stopped its incantation. It opened its large mouth wide. A ball of black-red essence blood shot directly into the air. At the same time, its 4 arms also tilted upwards, for black magical seals sank into the essence blood, disappearing without a trace. The ball of essence blood instantly transformed into a strange blood pellet. It flashed upwards and vanished. But in the next moment, this blood sigil mysteriously appeared on the forehead of the black Volf hand. Immediately, a spiritual light flashed on its single horn. The black Volf creature's eyelids moved slightly. Its eyes finally, slowly, half opened. A blinding purple light shone between its eyelids. It was as if the purple suns had appeared at once, making it impossible to look at directly. Neither the ancient demon nor the big-headed man knew that just as the huge black Volf hand was awakened, in another sealed-off space nearby, inside a certain palace, a silver casket on an altar simultaneously flashed with light, as if something inside it had also been awakened, and above this silver box floated a half-foot-long, emerald-green wooden ruler, slowly rotating without stopping. The spiritual light it emitted perfectly illuminated the box below. The silver box was bathed in the green light from the wooden ruler above. A flash of spiritual light. Instantly, the silver glow vanished without a trace. It became deathly quiet once more, appearing exceptionally eerie. An old friend. If someone were to glance near the offering table, they would be even more startled. Dozens of yards away from the offering table, a figure was standing there, completely motionless. This person wore a blue robe and a red scarf. Tattoos on his face and arms flickered with light. It was none other than the great elder of the Du Sheng sect, Hua Tianqi. But at this moment, Hua Tianqi's eyes were slightly closed, his expression lifeless. Blood was streaming endlessly from his 7 orifices, including his ears and nose. If not for the slight, continuous rise and fall of his chest, anyone would have mistaken him for a dead man. As for the other 3 elders of the Du Sheng sect, they were nowhere to be found. They had not entered this hall with him. However, a faint rumbling and explosive sound could be heard from outside the hall's entrance. as if someone was trapped in some kind of restriction spell. Meanwhile, in the strange space where the giant Volf lay still, the look of death in the black Volf's eyes vanished. At the same time, a woman's voice came from its mouth. So, it was you. I had assumed you returned to the sacred realm long ago. I never expected you to also be stranded in the human realm until now. The voice was pleasant and melodious, and was actually 70 to 80% similar to the voice of the woman who had trapped Xiangji that day. It just had less flirtatiousness, and an added touch of icy coldness. Greetings, Lord Holy Ancestor. Your subordinate was a step too late when I set out back then. I was nearly hunted down and killed by the humans. If not for those human cultivators, who thought that your subordinate knew the location of the passage from the sacred realm to the human realm, and wanted to slowly cast a spell to interrogate me by extracting my soul, your subordinate would not have survived until today. Gumo respectfully replied, "Oh, your luck isn't so bad. The spatial rift at Ling Yuan that we entered back then shattered long ago after we entered the human realm. Then what other way is there?" Black Volf Hand brought up the matter of the great war between humans and demons. He showed no signs of excitement, and just nodded. So this is the ancient giant demon from primeval times, the one that nearly wiped out all the ancient cultivators. The big-headed strange man watched coldly from the side as the ancient demon and Sparrow Volf spoke. Seeing Black Volf Hand, who spoke slowly and methodically, he couldn't detect the slightest trace of a demonic nature. He was secretly surprised by the discrepancy. "Since you have come to this place, you must have everything planned out, right? But let me give you a warning first. Rescuing me is not as easy as you think. Leaving aside other matters, just this great circulatory star chain that imprisons me is not something that you, with your current cultivation, can break." This item was passed down from the spirit realm, a treasure specifically designed to be used against our sacred race. Black Volf Hand lowered his head and glanced at the dense, pitch-black chains on its body. He said faintly, "Sacred Ancestor, rest assured, since this subordinate has come, I have naturally made thorough preparations. This time, not only do I have fellow Taoist Yi to assist, I have also gathered demonic Cha from several realms, which is enough to break this chain." The ancient demon, however, looked completely confident. "You actually have demonic Cha to aid you. In that case, there is indeed a chance of removing this great circulatory star chain. But even so, I still can't let you cast the spell right away." The ancient demon shook its head. "Why is that?" At this, the four-armed ancient demon was greatly surprised. A purple-red light flashed incessantly in its eyes. The strange man of the Yi family was also stunned. "It's simple. This star chain is not the most powerful restriction that imprisons me. Take a look at where you are all standing now." Black Volf Hand sighed lightly. "The place where we stand." The ancient demon and the big-headed freak couldn't help but simultaneously look down toward their feet. But aside from the black teleportation formation we used to get in, there was nothing else. The two of them were completely baffled. "Do you really think this place is some independent space you can enter and leave as you please? This is merely a certain heaven-reaching spirit treasure using its power to take a certain area on the 8th floor and magically isolate it, that's all. If you make even the slightest unusual move, this treasure will immediately activate and teleport you out of this place. To enter this place again will not be such an easy matter. Besides, these external forces are not the main reason I've been trapped here for so many years. The biggest problem lies with this Silver Moon Volf demon's body." The Black Volf had moved its head slightly, looking at the other side of the body. At the Silver Volf head, which was still deep in slumber, a grave expression finally appeared in its eyes. The ancient demon and the big-headed freak were no ordinary men. Upon hearing this, and looking at the Silver Volf head, so different from the black one, they began to understand. They vaguely guessed what was going on. Back then, this Silver Moon Volf demon's primordial spirit, wasn't it devoured by the sacred ancestor? Could something unexpected have happened? The ancient demon asked hesitantly. "Humph, how do you think I was defeated and captured back then?" "It was all because of this Volf demon. When I possessed its body, it had already played a trick on me. It actually possessed two main primordial spirits at the same time. One was heavily wounded by me, and it fled by abandoning the body at the time, making me think I was safe from then on. But the other one used a secret arc to hide somewhere inside the body. Then, when I was at a critical point in my fight with the three elders of Kunwu, it suddenly launched a counterattack. That is how I ended up being sealed away for so many years." The Black Volf had said, showing a trace of anger. "To main souls, could it be the rare case of one body with two souls?" Hearing this, the big-headed strange man couldn't help but cry out, "You human, you certainly know a lot." This Silver Volf indeed possessed two completely independent souls. Originally, there was only one Volf head, but the moment the second Volf soul appeared, a second Volf head immediately manifested to fight me for control of this body. And this Volf demon's cultivation method was truly bizarre. I recklessly possessed this body for so long, yet I never noticed its secrets. The black Volf head said with difficulty, as if still greatly perplexed by it. That Volf demon's second soul, could it still exist? Of course, it exists. It was only after I was captured by those human cultivators that I found out. This silver Volf demon was actually one of the 7 great demon kings of the spirit realm, the favored concubine of the Tiakui Volf god. She was also one of the few spirit demons at the time who descended into the human realm in her true form. The reason I could possess this Volf demon so easily back then was because she had just descended to the human world and was in a state of severe weakness. Otherwise, with this silver Volf's cultivation at her peak, I, as just a sliver of a soul, might not have succeeded. But the fact that this silver Volf was one body with 2 souls truly caught me by surprise. It caused me to suffer a great and unclear loss. However, by then, I had already occupied this body for some years. Most of the physical body had already been successfully assimilated. Even though I was captured and left to their mercy, those human cultivators could not force me out of this body, nor did they dare to act rashly and destroy me along with this physical body. They could only temporarily seal me in the demon-suppressing pagoda. The black Volf head, the ancient demon, recounted this gloomily. Hearing these ancient secrets, the big-headed strange man was stunned. So, you're saying, the second Volf soul is now also in this body? The ancient demon gave a bitter laugh. Its verdant eyes stared at the silver-white Volf hand. Not right now, but he should be back in a little while. Speaking of which, you all are quite lucky to have awakened me at this time. The black Volf hand let out a soft, delicate laugh. Sacred Ancestor. What do you mean by that? The ancient demon understood. It's very simple. Back then, when the ancient cultivators used the black wine flag to create this spirit sealing land, and sealed me here, they deliberately extracted the primordial spirit of that second Volf soul. Nearby, they spared no effort to build a palace full of spiritual energy, and placed her inside it. As a result, in the beginning, this second soul of the demon king's favored concubine would return to this physical body every so often, to fight with me for control of the body. Once defeated, she would immediately return to her resting place, to recover her damaged vital energy. But because I was sealed, I could only rely on the demonic energy within my body to fight this woman. With her waxing and me waning, it wasn't long before I was at a great disadvantage. In order not to be truly forced out of this body, I had no choice but to use the melting scale grand technique to fight her. The black Volf hand said with unusual calmness, "What? The melting scale grand technique?" The ancient demons for eyes simultaneously showed a look of shock. For a moment, they even forgot their reverence. That's right. I have already merged with her, becoming a single heart soul, and it was with her spirit as the dominant one, and mine as the subordinate. But in the beginning, not only was the heart soul unstable, but when those ancient cultivators inspected the heart soul, they were able to recognize that I was also merged within it. They didn't acknowledge her identity at all, and did not undo the seal to let her out. But based on her special status, Guzu didn't dare to harm it rashly, so he simply gave up on Kunwu Mountain as well. He sealed the mountain completely. As a result, the souls of the 2 of us were in a constant state of conflict and fusion, a very strange situation. It wasn't until many years later, after we fused again, that things finally stabilized. The fusion was already perfect, but a few days ago, the Star Soul, in order to pull a secretly infiltrating 7th level spirit transformation cultivator into the Phantom Temple's illusion, caused great damage to the Divine Stone. That's how my soul and the Volf demon soul were able to split apart once more. But this time, I believe this will be the last time we split. Once that other Volf soul, which is dormant in that place full of spiritual energy, awakens, we will merge into one again. As the black Volf hand spoke of these matters, its tone remained completely calm. Meanwhile, the ancient demon and the big-headed monster were utterly dumbfounded. Lord of the sacred race, after the fusion, will the new soul still be a member of our sacred race? After being stunned for a long moment, the ancient demon asks with a bitter smile, "What do you think?" The black Volf hand asked back nonchalantly. Hearing this, the ancient demon was left speechless. "Since you've explained everything in such detail, you must have a way to stop this, right? If you have something to say, just say it." After thinking for a moment, the big-headed monster suddenly spoke up. "Speaking of which, I haven't asked you yet. Why would a human like you offer to help? You must have some ulterior motive, right?" I can see that you don't have much life force left. It seems your time is almost up. Are you hoping that I, the sacred ancestor, will infuse you with demonic energy? Asked the black Volf hand, a glint flashing in its eyes. He didn't answer. Instead, he said with deep meaning, "Since you've already figured it out, I have nothing to hide. I would rather fall into the demonic path forever than simply turn to dust. If that were the case, my nearly 1,000 years of arduous cultivation and countless brushes with death, what would it all have been for? Was it all just to let myself return to dust and ashes to ashes?" At this point, the big-headed monster had no intention of hiding anything anymore. His face twisted with a grim expression that was spoken quite frankly. "No beating around the bush. Since you have such determination and can help this sacred ancestor escape from here, I can perform the demonic infusion for you once. But let me be clear up front. In your current state, you'll have a 50% chance of advancing at best after the infusion. However, our sacred clan's lifespans far exceed you cultivators. Even if you don't advance, a successful infusion will still greatly increase your lifespan. You'll still have a chance to advance to the deity transformation stage on your own." The black Volf hand's gaze swept over the big-headed monster, and he said with a calm expression, 50%. Even if it's only 1/10, I will still take the gamble. How can I help you escape? Just tell me." The big-headed monster laughed maniacally, and said without hesitation, "Good. This sacred ancestor will get straight to the point. The Rongling Grand Art has reached its current stage. As long as that Volf soul returns to this body, no spell will be needed. I will be irresistibly fused with it. The only way to stop it is to kill the Volf soul, and the place where the Silver Moon Volf soul slumbers was personally set up by the 3 elders of Kunwu back then, the Grand Annihilation Array. This array is formed by 81 demon-slaying blades. Any being carrying demonic energy that gets close to it will be targeted by the combined power of these giants and the array, and chopped into meat paste. Blood cannot break this array. Although fellow Taoist Guan's cultivation technique is exactly orthodox, it is by no means an evil demonic art. The matter of destroying the Volf soul can only be left to you, fellow Taoist. As long as you accomplish this, our holy race will take care of the demon infusion." The black Volf head's voice, though it sounded exactly the same as before, when it fell upon the big-headed strange man's ears, it was filled with endless temptation. It made him gaze at the blood Volf, his expression becoming uncertain. "Where is that Volf soul?" A moment later, the strange man from the Yi family said through gritted teeth, showing no intention of haggling whatsoever, "Fellow Taoist Yi, indeed a smart man. Of the 2 teleportation arrays you used to enter, the other one leads to the palace, where that Volf soul is kept." Seeing that the strange man wasn't fussing over details, a hint of appreciation appeared in the black Volf head's eyes. It also spoke straightforwardly. "If it's that teleportation array, those guys from the Dush sect already went in some time ago. It's a bit tricky. However, if I make a move in secret, dealing with them will be an easy task. I'll head over right now and destroy that Volf soul." The big-headed strange man muttered to himself, then formed a hand seal. A spiritual light flashed from the teleportation array beneath his feet, and he was teleported away with a whoosh. Instantly, only Gumo was left near the teleportation array. "I couldn't ask you properly with that human cultivator here us now. Now you can tell me, how many demonic artifacts have you collected?" The first-class monster's figure vanished. The black Volf hand's gaze suddenly hardened. A bone-chilling aura suddenly radiated out. The chains on its body instantly began to hum. Simultaneously, it shot out countless dark, sharp rays. They plunged deep into the giant Volf's body. But the black Volf hand's expression didn't change in the slightest. It acted as if it saw nothing at all. Reporting to the sacred ancestor, "We have found Wu Jian, the demonic Cha our clansman left behind in the human realm." The ancient demon, Yigong Yao, became even more respectful. "The demonic Cha of the 5 swords is barely enough. Begin the preparations at once." Although the current me can only control half of this body's magical power, but as long as I struggle free, it will be enough to break the black wine flag's formation. Even if it is a heaven-reaching spirit treasure, without a master to control it, it's nothing more than a dead object. The black Volf hand said grimly. "Yes." Upon hearing this, the ancient demon waved its forearms through the air without hesitation. At the same time, a black light flashed. On its forepalms, a hazy black demonic artifact appeared on each. A black mirror, a blood-colored command arrow, a jade lotus, and a grayish-white ring. And the ancient demon opened the large mouth on one of its heads, and directly spat out a small, dark bottle. As soon as these 5 demonic artifacts appeared, they immediately began to spin ceaselessly above the ancient demon's head. One of the ancient demon's heads let out a long howl. Then, Black light flashed wildly around its body. The 5 demonic artifacts, with a burst of energy, shot directly towards the giant valve locked in the air, and the formation in the air immediately sensed something. At the same time, it burst with spiritual light. Lights of various colors flickered endlessly. The entire sky seemed as if it had come alive in that instant. Han Li, of course, did not know that an ancient giant demon was about to break free from the demon-suppressing pagoda. He was now standing at the entrance of Kunwu Hall, gazing at the scene inside. A bewildered expression was on his face. The Northern Lights' primordial light. How could this thing be here? Han Li muttered to himself, his gaze fixed on the dense silver filaments of light ahead. Scanning them over several times, he confirmed once again that these things were indeed identical to what he had seen in the fallen Devil Valley. However, these light filaments weren't emanating from any rocks. Instead, they were shooting out from the hundreds of massive stone pillars within the hall, completely submerging the entire grand hall in their glow. It was impossible to see clearly into the hall, or what lay beyond. Just then, a wild laugh suddenly erupted from behind Han Li. It sounded distant, yet utterly arrogant. Fellow Taoist Han, I wonder, are you planning to jump into the Northern Lights' primordial light on your own, or would you prefer us to send you on your way with our magic treasures in a moment? It was the voice of that old devil Chan. Han Li's brow furrowed. He glanced back. Through the massive hall entrance, he could faintly see the 2 rows of giant trees. Now, only a dozen or so remained. Old Devil Chan and his group, along with Yin Sanye and the others, had also chased him to the front of the hall. On one hand, they were still using their treasures to bombard the last of the giant trees. On the other, they were staring at Han Li through the entrance, each of them with a different expression on their face, except for those demonic beasts who knew from the start about the existence of the Northern Lights' primordial light. The others were all experienced individuals. As soon as they saw the situation in the hall from a distance, they immediately recognized the Northern Lights' primordial light. As a result, most of them naturally had mixed feelings of joy and worrying. They were joyful because the Northern Lights' primordial light was blocking the way. Han Li was unable to be the first to enter the central area. Naturally, they were the ones who were worried. It seemed they were also unable to pass through this suddenly appearing mirror of Arctic Yuan light. How to get the treasure later would be a real headache. However, old Demon Qian's voice was erratic, and he was laughing wildly as if he didn't care at all. This Arctic Yuan light, for cultivators who are unprepared for its visual effects, is truly a dead end. No wonder the old demon looked so gloating. Han Li snorted coldly. He turned his head and slapped his beast spirit storage pouch. A jet-black ring flew out from the pouch. After circling once, it hummed above his head, rapidly growing into a ring of expanding diameter. Talismans flickered on this ring, suggesting its extraordinary power. This was one of the 2-phase rings. Han Li calmly pointed at the giant ring. The object immediately shone down from above his head. At the same time, he quickly formed a spell seal and struck it. A hazy, dark light appeared on the ring, completely enveloping Han Li and protecting him within. Seeing this, old Demon Qian's wild laughter stopped abruptly. The cultivators and demonic beasts behind him also froze. A look of disbelief appeared on all their faces. Humph! Could this person really have a way to pass through the Arctic Yuan light? This thought couldn't help but surface in everyone's mind. Even the motion of pinching seals to activate their magic treasures and attack the restrictive barrier slowed down. And so, right before their eyes, Han Li's figure flickered. Shielded by the light, he plunged headfirst into the dense silver threads of light. All the Arctic Yuan light rays that shot towards this unremarkable shield, all strangely curved away, automatically avoiding Han Li. Now, everyone stared at each other, dumbfounded and utterly speechless. As for Han Li's figure, in a flash, he was submerged in the Arctic primordial light, vanishing without a trace. Hurry up and do something. We can't let this kid actually take the treasure. The silver-winged Yaksha finally snapped out of his shock. He let out a sharp yell, his face twisting into a ferocious expression. What's the use of being fast? He still has to get past the Arctic primordial light. Zetian Hao also said with a grim expression, HMPH, the Arctic primordial light might be able to stop others, but it's dreaming if it thinks it can stop me. Old Demon Chen let out an extremely cold snort. Then, the form transformed from the woozy demon. The giant white shadow suddenly leapt. It actually ignored the remaining golden thorn mausoleums and shot directly towards the main hall. Great Elder, you! Zetian Hao and the others couldn't help but cry out in shock. However, as soon as the giant white shadow entered the remaining golden thorn mausoleums, magnetic field, a massive force immediately pressed down, instantly pulling the white shadow to the ground, making it impossible to move an inch. A thunderous roar erupted from the white shadow's mouth. Then, the white shadow flashed with light, and a seemingly formless blood shadow shot out from within it. It instantly flew out dozens of feet, before being pulled back to the ground by the immense force. But this blood shadow, with a slight tremble, walked step by step towards the main hall like an ordinary person. This scene naturally left the humans and demons in a state of shock. It's come to this. We have no choice but to use the divine power of the Gui Dao. Let's do it. We can't wait any longer. Those things must not fall into the hands of others. The silver-winged yaksha no longer hesitated. With a turn of his hand, he sent a telepathic message to the ugly woman with a gloomy expression. The ugly woman also nodded gravely. Then, a white light flashed around her body, and her figure suddenly rolled on the ground. Amidst the blinding light, a black and white giant turtle over 10 feet long emerged. It crawled forward rapidly. Jill 5 actually offered up its perfect, round body. The chicken beast and the silver-winged yaksha both leapt up at the same time, and sat on the turtle's back. At this moment, the giant turtle had just entered the magnetic field of the Golden Thorn Mausoleum. As a result, the chicken beast and the silver-winged yaksha swayed, struggling on the turtle's back, unable to move. But the giant turtle's entire body flashed black and white, flickering non-stop. It continued to crawl forward quickly without any pause, as if it were completely unaffected. However, it wasn't entirely unaffected, because as it squeezed into the magnetic field's range, around 31, one by one, strange golden runes suddenly appeared. These runes flew swiftly as if they were intangible, entering 31's body one after another. Although the three demons' protective light was dazzling to the eye, it couldn't stop these runes from entering at all. The giant turtle showed no visible effects, but the silver-winged yaksha and the chicken beast, after each rune entered their bodies, their expressions immediately grew listless, as if they were under some extremely powerful restriction. But fortunately, the remaining area affected by the golden thorn heavy light wasn't very large. The giant turtle, in almost an instant, carried the two of them out of this area. 21 immediately let out a sigh of relief, and their spirit was mostly restored. The giant turtle stopped, and the two demons got off its back. A spiritual light immediately flashed around one of them, and she transformed back into the form of an ugly woman. But her ugly face looked exceptionally pale, as if passing through that golden thorn heavy light had consumed a great deal of her vital energy. The figures of the three demons flickered. Model was drawn into the main hall without any hesitation. At this moment, the blood shadow that old demon Cheyenne had transformed into had already flown inside. One step ahead, 31 could see it clearly. Countless silver threads pierced through the blood shadow, riddling its body with thousands of holes. But the blood shadow simultaneously erupted with a blinding bloody mist. While its body was being damaged, it was also constantly repairing itself. In this situation, the blood shadow formed by old demon Cheyenne didn't pause for a moment. In the blink of an eye, it vanished into the northern extremity origin light. Seeing this, 31 didn't dare to hesitate any longer, as if they had planned their strategy long ago. The beast's form flickered and suddenly appeared at the front. At the same time, from its massive, bloody maw, a wave of golden sound erupted silently from its mouth. Wherever it passed, all the silver threads instantly snapped, piece by piece. Following right after, the silver-winged yaksha flapped its wings with all its might. A fierce, cyan wind surged wildly from its wings, and working together with the golden wave, it immediately sent those broken silver threads flying away as if they'd vanished into thin air. And so, under the continuous sweep of these two divine abilities, a clear path finally appeared. 31 seized the opportunity and rushed in, then also slowly headed towards the depths of the hall. For Lin Yinping and Yu Rong, who were still outside the Kunwu hall, their expressions turned ugly. In the blink of an eye, of those who remained to continue destroying the giant trees, only they and Jie Tianhao's group were left. With a deep frown, he stayed behind, and said to the youth with the surname Su, "Suzu, the rest of us don't need to be anxious. Our main target is just that Han kid. The treasures in this hall don't really matter. Besides, with so many people having gone inside, how could the treasure be so easily taken by any single person? Let's destroy these giant trees. We'll just stand guard outside the shop door." The young man surnamed Su commanded a jade-like flying sword, continuously bombarding a giant tree. He said indifferently, "Haha, Brother Su, your words make sense. Even if other people get the treasure, they still have to come out from the shop entrance. Although we can't enter the northern polar mystic light. If they want to leave so easily, they'll have to ask for our permission first." Jie Tianhao also threw his head back and laughed loudly. Lin Yinping looked at the silver light threads in the main hall. After a moment of thought, He calmly nodded. When the other two elders from Black Mountain heard this, they also felt it made some sense. Their anxiety about missing out subsided considerably. They too obediently continued their attacks. In the blink of an eye, a loud boom was heard. A scorched hello giant tree, over 10 jong tall, collapsed under their attacks. At the very same moment, Han Li was standing deep inside Kunwu Hall. He let out a long sigh of relief. He glanced back at the dense silver light threads behind him. That Guzi was really cunning back then. To think that within the northern polar light, he would deliberately set up another illusion formation. If it weren't for my bright-side spirit eyes, getting out would have been quite troublesome. After muttering to himself, Han Li turned his head to look forward. The place where he was now seemed to be the rear half of Kunwu Hall. The area wasn't too large, but directly in front of him were two rows with more than 10 chairs of various styles. The wooden chairs formed what looked like a council chamber, and at the end of these rows of wooden chairs, another pale golden chair was placed right in the center, and next to him was a green altar about a jong high. The chairs were one thing, they were just carved from ordinary golden threadwood. The single table, however, was a deep, vibrant green. It radiated a potent spiritual aura. At a glance, it was clearly no ordinary object. What's more, it was currently enveloped in a hazy green light, and through this light, one could faintly see the shapes of several items placed on the jade table. These must be the treasures of Kunwu Hall. Han Li's brow twitched slightly. He glanced to his left and right. The surroundings were empty. There was nothing else eye-catching. Finally, his gaze shifted back to the front, and looking up, it fell upon a certain object. On the wall behind the pale golden chair, there hung an inconspicuous painting. A painting of 3 people gazing at the moon, a monk, a Taoist, and what looked like 3 blurry figures. In a bamboo forest, they seemed to be chatting freely under a full moon, because the painting was only about a foot in size. The image was slightly yellowed and dim. It showed no trace of a spiritual glow. So, even Han Li at first didn't notice this painting, but now, his eyes were narrowed, staring intently at the painting, unmoving. His focus gradually sharpened. After a long while, Han Li lowered his head, a contemplative look on his face. He hadn't noticed anything unusual about the painting just now. When he scanned it with his spiritual sense, it also indicated that the painting was just an ordinary object, but he still had a nagging feeling that there was something strange about it. Why would a mortal object be hung in a place like this? His expression flickered with uncertainty. Suddenly, with a look of resolve, Han Li raised a single hand. A 10-foot-long beam of golden light shot out. The next moment, it viciously struck the painting. A burst of light exploded. Amidst the flashing golden radiance, the 3 people gazing at the moon painting was torn to shreds. The fragments scattered and fell from the air. Seeing this, Han Li was stunned. Could it be that he was just overthinking things? Han Li was a bit puzzled, but since he had already done so, he certainly wasn't going to just stand guard. So, with a flick of his embroidered robe, several fist-sized fireballs appeared in front of him. He took a deep breath, about to use the divine stone to launch these fireballs, ready to burn the remaining debris to ashes. But just then, a voice suddenly echoed in Han Li's mind without any warning, exclaiming, "Master, be careful." Han Li was shocked. Although the divine stone hadn't sensed anything unusual, his body blurred without hesitation. 7 or 8 identical afterimages materialized in an instant, making it impossible to tell which was the real Han Li. And at almost the same time, about 10 feet behind Han Li, the ground burst open. A spiritual light flashed violently from within the debris. Several of the afterimages were pierced by golden and silver rays of light, straight through from behind. But from one of them came a sharp clang. Those golden and silver piercing rays were actually blocked by something and deflected away. It was a pointed, shuttle-shaped magic treasure, gold and silver in color. The figure was sent stumbling by the powerful force, but his body flickered and he instantly vanished from the spot. The next moment, he reappeared 6 or 7 jong away in another spot. After turning around, Han Li's face was revealed, filled with shock and fury. If he hadn't already taken out the unyielding primal shield and placed it on his back, he might have been severely injured. Therefore, even though Han Li usually concealed his emotions, at this moment, he was overcome with lingering fear. Rage surged within his heart. He immediately reached back with one hand, and a small, fluorescent shield appeared in his hand. With his other hand, he shook his embroidered robe. Dozens of small golden arrows transformed into a dense barrage of sword lights, flashing for an instant towards the ground below the pile of rubble opposite him, and shot out. But then, a woman's light laugh was heard. Immediately, a blinding light flashed, and a gold and silver object rose up from the ground. So many sword lights struck this object, but they strangely flashed and missed their mark. Seeing this, Han Li's heart skipped a beat. The anger in his heart instantly subsided by more than half. He quickly focused his gaze to look. That giant gold and silver object was actually a giant shuttle, several tens of feet long. Its surface shimmered with golden light, as smooth as a mirror. It was unclear what kind of material it was forged from, and from its shape, this object was identical to the treasure that had just ambushed him, only countless times larger. Fellow Taoist, you are truly exceptionally vigilant. To think that such an attack still failed to succeed. TSK, the cultivation technique you practice. Fellow Taoist, could you perhaps tell this little sister a thing or two about it? Those few small gold and silver shuttles that had just attacked Han Li. The moment the giant shuttle appeared, circled once and flew back, disappearing into the giant shuttle without a trace. At the same time, the young woman's surprised voice came from inside the giant shuttle. Hearing this, Han Li's expression turned grim, as he recalled his numerous flying swords. While his mind raced like lightning, suddenly, a spiritual light flashed around his body, and he abruptly transformed into a streak of azure light, shooting towards the darkness not far away. Since other cultivators had arrived, he naturally planned to snatch the treasure first, before anything else. Otherwise, if he got entangled, more cultivators drawn by the northern or divine light would only continue to gather. His chances of obtaining the treasure would become extremely slim. However, just as Han Li shot forward, he also felt a bit strange. The woman's voice was very unfamiliar. It was definitely not the shop he had seen earlier, or any of the people outside. And 15. Could it be that other cultivators had already entered the Mineral Mountain so quickly? They even got ahead of Old Devil Chan and the others, and passed through the Arctic origin light. All these thoughts merely flashed through Han Li's mind, just as the young woman cried out in great surprise. In that cry, a beam of light shot past a distance of over 20 yards, and was just about to arrive above the dark table. At that very moment, a spatial distortion suddenly occurred above Pan Li's head. With a flash of azure light, a light scarf covered in runes materialized out of thin air. Then, without any hesitation, it pressed down fiercely. This scarf was a good 5 to 6 yards wide, and it appeared right next to him, caught completely by surprise. No matter how great Han Li's powers were, or how many tricks he had up his sleeve, he was instantly trapped inside. For a moment, he was completely stuck. The place where Han Li was trapped shimmered with a clear light. Sensing that things were bad, he quickly swayed. The round vessel in his hand suddenly emitted a layer of hazy white light, which instantly appeared around his body. He decided to protect himself first, before anything else. And outside the light scarf, a woman had strangely appeared on top of it. It was none other than Madame Mu of the Huaxian sect. This woman had witnessed the power of Han Li's three-bladed fan, so she naturally knew that the light scarf couldn't hold Han Li for long. After the successful sneak attack, she didn't dare to delay. With a flicker of her body, she transformed into a streak of white light and flew to the front of the dark table. She raised her hand, and a silver token appeared in her palm. A silver python flickered on it, and a sheet of silver light shot out, landing right on the green light barrier. It looked exceptionally solid. Under the illumination of the silver light, the barrier, it scattered and disintegrated, like snow melting in the spring sun. In the blink of an eye, it vanished without a trace, revealing the several artifacts on the offering tables. True form, for blood-red wooden tablets stacked together, a small purple arrow, a palm-sized magic wand, a scroll glowing with red light, and a jade green seal. On its surface was carved a lifelike, 5-clawed true dragon. Seeing these items, the wealthy figure's face filled with joy. After their gaze lingered for a moment on the seal, they immediately flicked a long sleeve, about to sweep all the items into their possession. Just as the treasures were about to be taken, a green light flashed where the wealthy figure stood. Suddenly, from the ground shot out several vertical, long, green tongues. After coiling around a few times with lightning speed, they instantly bound the wealthy figure up tightly. Several snake-like maws, faster than a clap of thunder, bit down viciously, with a few loud bangs. It's unclear what kind of spiritual artifact the wealthy figure was wearing. Without any spell being cast, a layer of white light appeared on its own. The green tendrils were instead knocked away, and in doing so, revealed their true form. They turned out to be several lush green vines. At this, Mrs. Mu became both shocked and furious. She never would have imagined that there was an oriole stalking her from behind. Her previous actions of trapping Han Li, and actively using her artifact to open the protective shield on the altar, wasn't all of that just doing the hard work for someone else? Who on earth was this person who had ambushed her? How could they follow so closely behind the Sun Moon shuttle, without being discovered at all? After all, The only reason she had been able to sneak in here so secretly, it was all thanks to the silver token left behind by the 3 elders of Kunwu. This token could temporarily control a part of the restrictions in the hall, preventing it from using the Sun-Moon shuttle to escape underground and appear in front of the other cultivators. Just then, a harsh and unpleasant, strange laugh rang out. Then, a tall, green, hazy figure silently emerged from the ground nearby. Its pair of icy green eyes swept coldly across the scene. The coldness in its gaze sent an involuntary chill down Madame Mu's spine. But once she focused and saw the green figure's appearance clearly, her expression changed drastically, and she cried out in alarm, "A Mukui! How can this kind of demonic creature still exist?" At a glance, this green figure, although it had a full set of limbs and a head resembling a person, both its face and body were completely covered by pieces of something resembling tree bark. It looked more like a monstrous walking tree, and when the Mukui heard Madame Mu shout like that, a sneer flashed in its eyes. Then, it completely ignored the woman. Instead, its body flashed and transformed into a ball of green light, pouncing towards the dark table. It also wanted to snatch all those treasures for itself. Madame Mu's heart sank. Even if she could break free now, she would be too late to stop this demonic creature. But then, an unbelievable scene occurred. Before the ball of light transformed from the Mukui could even get close to the dark table, it was struck by the debris of what Hanli had shattered in front of the dark table. From within the wreckage of the 3 moon gazers, points of spiritual light suddenly appeared. Following that, 3 streams of light yellow, white, and red shot out. A purple-red glow met the green light head-on, and with a sweep, it struck the green light as if it were a rubber ball, sending it flying over 100 feet away. As a result, the green ball of light dimmed, revealing the Mukui's staggering and unstable figure. At this moment, the tall demonic creature seemed unable to control itself, spinning in place several times before it could barely regain its footing. But as it raised its head to look at the purple-red glow, its green eyes was filled with unspeakable terror, and after the 3 beams of rosy light circled once on the dark table, they sketched out 3 blurry, indistinct, small figures. They floated lightly, but their appearance was clearly that of the 3 from before on their moon-gazing journey. Taoist, "Are you?" And the monk. 6 wooden gazes were all fixed deadly on Mukui in the distance, as if looking at a dead man. The 3 elders of Kunwu. A cry of extreme terror escaped Mukui's lips. Immediately, his entire body flashed with spiritual light, and without a second thought, he transformed into a streak of green light, shooting towards the northern extreme primordial light. He didn't even dare to look back once. But the 3 small figures, in unison and without a word, pointed towards the small sword, the demon subduing staff, and the scroll on the table. The 3 treasures leapt up with a humming sound. Then, after a shudder, they transformed into purple, yellow, and red streaks of golden light and shot out, and in a flash, vanished into the air. But in the next moment, just as Mukui was about to plunge into, the 3 lights faithfully reappeared behind him. They merged together for a vicious strike. Mukui had no way to dodge at all. With an earth-shattering boom, the 3-colored light exploded, instantly engulfing the green light within it. The burst of blinding light was like a scorching sun, making it impossible for anyone to look at it directly. But once the light faded, aside from the 3 treasures floating in place, the area was empty, with nothing left behind. With a single strike, these 3 treasures had actually taken this terrifying Mukui and evaporated him, body and primordial spirit, from existence. At the same time, among the 4 blood-red wooden tablets on the table, the bottommost one spontaneously ignited, and in an instant, turned into a pile of ash. And after the 3 treasures destroyed him, the treasure immediately flew up and was destroyed. After circling once, it obediently landed back in its original position on the desk, and the 3 figures on it blurred, then scattered and disappeared. From beginning to end, they didn't say a single word. These 3 small figures were the 3 elders of Kunwu. It was just a wisp of their divine sense left behind. It was to prevent the treasure from falling into the hands of evil demons, and was intentionally left in Kunwu Hall as a final restriction that Mukui, whether in terms of cunning or cultivation, could be considered formidable, a powerful great demon. He seemed to be even a notch more powerful than that Yin Chi Yi Cha. But he was struck down by the 3 divine senses with a single blow, with no chance of survival. He lost his life in such a muddle-headed way. He was truly unlucky to the extreme. Mistress Mu was first shocked, then overjoyed. After Mukui died, the green vines on her body immediately turned from being as hard as iron back into ordinary vines. A white spiritual flame rose up and turned these things to ashes. She took a deep breath. After calming herself down, just as she was about to make a move, a loud bang suddenly came from behind her, as if something had shattered, but it was immediately followed by a clap of thunder. "Senior sister, be careful," the beautiful female cultivator cried out in alarm. Mistress Mu's heart tightened. Without thinking, she raised a jade-like hand. Her 5 jade-like fingers made a grasping motion in the air towards the desk. Instantly, all the treasures on the desk shook and flew into the air, shooting directly towards her. But, in that very instant, a clap of thunder echoed in the dark space. A figure emerged amidst a flash of lightning, and also made a grab for those few treasures. Instantly, the treasures that were flying towards Mistress Mu paused for a moment, and then immediately shot towards that person. It was Han Li, who had just broken free from the terrifying trap, and immediately used the Wine Thunder Crimson escape technique to get here. The moment Madame Mu saw this scene, she was naturally filled with shock and fury. She opened her mouth and spat out, with a sound that tore through the air. Several silver flying needles shot straight at Han Li. At the same time, she flicked her sleeves, and a cloud of red mist flew out from them, rolling straight towards those treasures. Seeing this, Han Li's expression darkened as he opened his mouth. A hazy white crystal orb shot out towards the flying needles. It was none other than the beautiful snow crystal pearl. With his other hand, he reached back towards those treasures, and made a grabbing motion in the air. Instantly, a large, cyan hand materialized above the treasures, and snatched downwards. With his other hand, he flipped his palm, and an ancient feather fan appeared in his grasp. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes. Han Li, without the slightest hesitation, aimed at the woman, and viciously fanned outwards. He had first been sneak attacked and plotted against by the woman, and then trapped by this madam using her treasure. His heart was already burning with rage. And now, at the critical moment of seizing the treasure, he immediately and unceremoniously used the 3 geese fan. As a result, the silver needles were blocked by the snow crystal pearl. The large hand that grabbed down, however, was entangled by the madam's red cloud, which surged upwards, preventing it from descending. But with a single shake of the 3 geese fan, a torrent of gold, silver, and red tricolored flames surged out. Seeing this, the opposing Madame Mu had a drastic change of expression. She had personally witnessed the terrifying power of the 3 geese fan. She naturally knew its power was something she absolutely could not handle. Helpless, she could no longer care about the treasures. Her figure flickered as she shot backwards in retreat. After the 3-colored flame missed its mark, it still flashed and exploded. A 3-colored halo of light, nearly 100 feet in diameter, unleashed an astonishing spiritual pressure. Even Han Li was forced back several steps. As for those treasures, although they were at the edge of the 3-leaf fan's power, both Han Li's previous giant, greenish-blue hand, and Madame Mu's red, rosy light, were completely shattered by the force of this spiritual pressure. They all dissipated and vanished. The few treasures, one after another, began to fall from the sky toward the ground, before Han Li could rejoice at this sight. And just as he was about to make a move, 3 streaks of escaping light suddenly shot out from that northern extreme Yuan light. At the same time, 3 streaks of escaping light shot out. One was a blood shadow, another was a ball of silver light, and the last was a ball of purple mist. All 3 of these escaping lights seemed to be masters of some kind of strange escaping art. They either vanished into thin air, or transformed into a gust of wind. Han Li instantly sensed that something was wrong, but his movements were not slow in the slightest. With a clap of thunder, he arrived above these treasures a step ahead of the others, in the sky above the mist, but it was only by a single step. In the very next moment, the other 3 shadows, almost simultaneously, also appeared near those treasures. While attacking those closest to them, they also used their divine abilities to snatch at a certain treasure.